We have a new addition to the challenge Redemption House with the surveillance room, Sheldon. But before we begin our surveillance of this week's episode of the challenge, Final Reckoning, see what I did there? Let's do introductions.
I got you.
I'm John Chidley Hill.
And once again, I am Sheldon Alexander.
And this is You Killed It, the podcast about the challenge, talking about Final Reckoning, which I know we're only 2 episodes in, but I am loving it. I love this cast. I love the Redemption House. I love the surveillance room, which we get our first introduction to start off the show. As I said, we got, the Redemption House people drinking wine, and Brittany and Chuck just like having crackling sexual energy between them. And TJ Lavin walks in and shows that they have a creepy little voyeur's closet where they can basically watch what happened last week on the challenge, which I really like, as like instead of when we as viewers watch and get like this week on the challenge, I really like that we can like watch along with Jemmy and Jenna and the whole gang and see their reactions. What did you think?
I like it. It's a very cool twist. I think it's one of those things where it adds just another layer, and it's something that we haven't seen. I think it's something that is from other reality shows. It's kind of like a different element from another reality show, but it's also a great way that you can produce the show and manipulate certain angles, right? Depending on who's going back in the house.
That's a good point. You now
can feed them certain information for when they go back into said house. They know what's going on, right? Because what happens from time to time, especially with the Redemption House twist, is let's say someone comes back in, you're at the mercy of who your connections are that are still in the house to find out what's been going on.
Yeah.
This way, there's no messing around, right? Like, that there's been a fight or you've seen how it's gone down. Like, there's no excuses for you, right? I think it's pretty cool. I like it.
I really liked their reaction to the Melissa Kayla. I got it. The Melissa Kayla fight. I really like the reaction to that Melissa Kayla fight because it was like pure World Star. They like jump up to their feet and they're like screaming and yelling. It was awesome.
So when I used to work for the Score television network, I used to work on a segment called Court Cuts, which is just the best like basketball highlights each week. Mm-hmm. And one of the things that we would always do, and we coined the term bench reacts. Mm-hmm, and it would always be when someone throws down a crazy dunk, the whole bench would like get up and everyone's holding each other back and the bench is going crazy. The bench reacts on the Redemption House watching that fight. It was amazing. You had people standing up on chairs. You had them holding everyone back. Someone was standing, like 3 people standing in the background. They're all yelling. You had the Macaulay Culkin face, right? Like so much going on. It was pretty funny to see. It was cool. I'm in. I like it.
And
I also like the cast of characters in the Redemption House, too.
Yeah, it's a good mix. And, like, groups of people, like, pairings that you don't associate with each other. Obviously, Jose and Mama Day, brand new entities.
Yep.
But still, like, I know that Jenna and Brittany and Jemmy and Brittany know each other, but we haven't seen a lot of interaction, right? Like, they get along, but they're not best buds. They're not enemies, so like it's good. And nor have we really seen Jenna and Jemmy interact that much, really, in the history of the show. I mean, obviously they're both challenge veterans and they know each other well. But yeah, there's a lot of new elements.
I really enjoy the duo of Jenna and Jemmy. And obviously, like, it's obvious, 2 beautiful women, right?
Mm-hmm.
That's the first part. Cool, easy. But their personalities are so much fun. We say it all the time, but Jenna is the nicest person ever. She just seems so nice and so sweet and so harmless. You know what I mean? Like, such a genuinely nice person. And Jemmy just seems like super cool. Like, you'd hang out with Jemmy. You would party with Jemmy. I think she'd be a really good friend to have because she's going to call you on your shit, right? Like that scene they had with Brittany when they're trying to call her out for having feelings with Chuck. Like, I thought that was funny, right? Like, Jemmy seems like a real one, like someone that you'd want to hang with. And I just find, like, that pairing together it's such a cool mix. It's a cool dynamic, you know? It's almost like I don't want to say good cop, bad cop, because there's not the bad cop there, but you know what I mean? Like, it's two different personalities, but they mesh well together.
Yeah, and I agree with you completely. I mean, they obviously got off to a poor start on this season, but on paper, I really like their chances.
Yeah. I guess when we get to the actual challenge, we could dive into this more, but I really want to get into a bit here the team breakdown. I know we're just one challenge in, so we can't really measure it.
Mm-hmm.
But I might have some issues with the teams going forward.
Oh.
Just how the teams break down.
Oh, I'm intrigued.
I guess we'll get into it at the end of when we're talking about the actual challenge. But yeah,
all right.
So Redemption House beef going down. They see the fight. We go back to the house, the main house, the 12 hours earlier, and TJ shows up. He announces that Kayla and Melissa are both gone for fighting, which we assumed was going to happen, right?
Yeah.
Or we knew that was going to happen at the end of last episode. What we didn't know is what was going to happen to Cam and Kaylee. And as predicted, we find out that they're now partners.
Yeah, I'd like to.
What do you make of this? Are you cool with this?
I'd like to give a shout out to John Chidley Hill and Sheldon Alexander for correctly predicting this. Shout outs to us. I like it. I mean, they do have beef. Neither of them did anything wrong.
Nope.
Why send them home?
Yeah, it seems like such an easy fix, right?
It does. I had two big takeaways, though, one thing I was confused by, and one thing that I disliked a lot. First off, Cam scares Kaylee?
Yeah.
What? Cam...
She said she has resting bitch face. She always looks mad. That was kind of weird, but Kaylee kind of just seems like a fire starter.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? Like, she seems to play that role where she's going to be very quick to be the victim, and it's always going to be someone else's fault and not really her fault. And
Well, speaking of that, I really disliked, I thought it was a bad look, that Melissa blames Kayla for the whole fight on her exit.
Oh, did I miss that? I think I kind of missed that.
Yeah, she did. So they have Kayla being like, this is a learning experience. This is a lesson that I have taken. I mishandled things. And then Melissa is like, I regret even apologizing to her. She's clearly too immature. I really saw them as equal aggressors. Right? Yeah. Like, and you and I discussed this last week. Melissa was not coming to make things better. Like, I would not say at all that she was trying to actually apologize. She was drunk, first of all. Second of all, it was like the most aggressive, in-your-face apology, non-apology I've ever seen. So, like, own your shit, Melissa. Kayla owned her shit. Melissa should own her shit as well.
Yeah, and as they're walking out, I was just thinking, how dumb do they feel? Right? Like, it's self-inflicting. You're leaving so early. It's after a situation that was clearly avoidable. Mm-hmm. And, it's so... You walked away from $1 million, pretty much. And it's pretty dumb for you to do this so early on in the season for no reason. Like, I understand if this happened mid-season where... maybe some more tension is built up. There's a lot of other things going on. But, like, you literally just got there, right? It just seems so crazy to me.
On top of the $1 million they're missing out on, you and I always make this point. They get paid per episode.
Yes,
those two are only getting paid for 2 episodes. And had they not gotten into that fight, you have to assume they would have gone deep into the game. I'm not saying that they're necessarily finals contenders, but, like, they'd be there in the late stages of the game for sure. So,
no, I definitely agree with you. I think that would have been a good team.
Yeah. Ridiculous.
Speaking of, we didn't get as much, and I'm bringing this up because I was talking about it with a friend at work who used to watch the challenge and is kind of trying to jump back in and was kind of thrown off by the first episode. And I was telling him, don't worry, stick around. I think they're trying to build up the drama in the first episode to try to get a lot of outside people in, right? But like they'll get back to basics of the normal challenge and all that. Now that didn't really happen in episode 2, but one of the things I did promise was there would be pool scenes because, obviously, as mentioned, there's a lot of beautiful people in the house, but also you're in this like great hot ass location, and they obviously have a lot of downtime, a lot of time to build up said drama, especially with so many people left in the house, and we get our little pool scene. And you know me, John, I'm happy for the pool scene, but then it gets interrupted because it turns into this Polly and Cara thing. And we know that this was going to be a major talking point throughout this season. And it's so awkward because we already know what ends up happening. So now watching it play out is kind of even more annoying because I don't really like either of their personalities. So I don't enjoy watching what seemingly horrible people do.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? And I'm tiptoeing around this because I don't want to call them horrible people because they're on a TV show, right? So I don't know what they're really like. I'm judging them off of what I'm seeing. But seemingly horrible people doing horrible things, right? And like to watch Paulie consistently talk about or call Kyle, what did he call him? Like a terrible dude, or that's not what a man does and stuff. Like it's just like, I'm cringing when they're having these scenes, and Cara just comes off as super thirsty. Right? Like, I don't know. I'm cringing while watching these scenes. But what are you making out of this?
Well, first of all, I agree with you that it's very cringeworthy. Second of all, she keeps saying that she's trying to make Kyle jealous, which, like, I'm sure there's an element of truth to it. But, like, the scene that really was our introduction this week is Polly and Cara flirting over comic books because she's wearing sort of a Wonder Woman bikini.
Yep.
Kyle's nowhere to be seen. Like, Kyle's not around.
Exactly.
So, like, whose benefit is this for? Like, Cara, just, like, my point is she's clearly also attracted to Polly on his own merits. It's not just about making Kyle jealous. Our listener, ChardeYXE on Twitter, tweeted at us.
Can I say thank you for finding this? I was actually trying to find it right now as you were talking, and my mentions are in complete, like, just flames after the Kawhi Leonard DeMar DeRozan trade yesterday. Yeah. So I was trying to go through and find it, and I'm like, oh no, I don't know where this is. So thank you. Go on.
My mentions are lit right now. I'm like scrolled 2/3 down the mentions page to get to these tweets. But thank you, Charde, as always, for your comments. She says, just want to share some context. Cara Maria was on Challenge Mania, that's Derek K's podcast, and said that she met Polly at the airport and they spent most of their time together before they even got to South Africa. She said their chemistry happened before the airing of the episode. On Challenge Mania, she said that Polly told her that his current relationship was boring. It wasn't Cara initiating at the beginning. However, that edit was not favorable at all. And then she added a little personal commentary. I kind of like Polly. He's a bit much, but I really think he's perfect for the challenge in that he comes to play, he's loyal, and he doesn't take much shit. So I think he'll be fun to watch. I mean, I don't know about that loyalty thing. We could ask his girlfriend, Danielle. And, I mean, she makes a good point, both Cara Maria and Charde, that, like, it wasn't clear in the edits that we got on TV, but, like, flying to South Africa is a long flight. It is a long, like, you have to have several stops on the way from North America. So I can believe that they had that, like, groundwork laid. But at the same time, Cara Maria's claims that, like, oh, I'm just trying to make Kyle jealous, but you were clicking with this dude before you even knew that Kyle was there. Or, I mean, maybe she saw Kyle at the airport as well. But you know what I mean? Like, she can't pin it all on a reaction to Kyle and Faith.
Nope. I totally agree with you. Interesting point. I like that.
That said, it's definitely working on Kyle. Like, this is bugging Kyle. and I like Kyle
Yeah.
less for it bugging him, because you can't fuck off to Thailand or wherever it was for 2.5 months and not speak to this woman that you had a connection, not just a physical relationship, but a romantic relationship, and then get jealous. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, you
Yeah.
have your choices, Kyle. You chose to be shitty and disrespectful of Kara. You no longer get to be jealous. Like, that is the sacrifice that you make when you're shitty. Your claims, or however you want to put it, your feelings for that person, you now have to own your shit and move on with your life. As like one last final act of respect to Cara Maria, don't get jealous, just move on, because you're the one that you're like, in the context of the Cara Maria Kyle relationship, he did her wrong first.
So I have a question for you here.
Okay.
And
I'm fired up, Sheldon.
No. That's cool. That's totally cool, and I appreciate that. And I have a question for you here, because
Okay.
there's a couple different things going on right now, very early on in this season, right?
Yeah.
And I'm here for the drama. If you listen to this podcast a lot, then you know that I like the drama. I'm here for, the poolside chats, all the backstabbing that happens at gameplay, then mix that in with the saltiness because you hooked up with this person and now they're hooking up with that person. Like, I'm here for all of that. But I'm here for all of that because of how it's mixed in with the actual challenge, right? And I feel like so far it's been a little too much of the other stuff. And I don't know if it's, what we were talking about last week in terms of this is all the setup for new people to like kind of get you to like or dislike the characters. You know what I mean? Because before the actual games start playing, right? If you're going to be invested in this season, you have to care about these characters, whether you like them or dislike them. So do you think that they're doing a lot of these different scenes? Like they're kind of playing up the angles of all these different scenes? Because not only the Polly and Cara thing, but I thought the Johnny Bananas and Natalie scene, I found myself watching that thinking, how fake is this, right? Like, are they actually having a real conversation about what did or didn't happen in last season? Or are they just playing this up again to give us another narrative of, because remember, we know they had like a fake little showmance, or maybe they played up their showmance last year for more camera time, right? So now I'm asking, if do you think the follow-up, like the little back and forth they had, is also more played up with Natalie? Like, so are we going to do this a whole season? Like, they're doing that for the cameras, and the producers are like, well, we need all these storylines because all the new people, we need them to feel a certain way about a character. Get to know the characters, let's say. Like, are you buying into all these like fake back and forth arguments and like, I feel like it's too much. I want to see more challenges.
Wow, there is a lot to unpack there.
Sorry.
No,
I know, I
no,
ramble.
no,
I ramble.
you did not ramble. Your arguments were concise. I just have several responses. The first is, I noticed that too, that like, I can tell you, and I'm sure you know this, but for the benefit of our listeners, you and I often PVR, and the benefit of that is you skip through all the ads, right? And as a result, I can tell you that a quote-unquote hour-long episode is actually 44 minutes and change.
Yes.
And I would say 38 minutes of this episode was house drama.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Right? Like, as I was going through this episode, I was like, there is a lot of house drama. Like, we don't even have a sniff of the actual competition yet.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
That said,
And again, I like the drama.
Yeah, I like the drama too. That said, I'm trusting the process.
Okay.
The past 4 or so seasons, the producers, the editors, the production crew of the challenge have done a great job of laying the groundwork, of laying the tracks for storylines that they know are coming that we don't know. So
fair enough. Good point.
I agree that like if you just take this one episode by itself, very house drama heavy. But if if you think of the broader context, I have trust and faith in these producers that it's going to pay off big time.
Okay.
And that there's going to be a lot of conflict because, just like jumping ahead a little bit, apparently the votes are going to be made public.
Yes.
Right? Like, that's one of the twists. So I can see all these different alliances and complicated, like the complicated web of relationships in this house. I can see it really paying off. And finally, I think that we have to take these relationships and like the relationship dramas case by case. Like, I think the Paulie, Cara Maria, Kyle, and like a little bit Faith thing, I think that's real. Like, I don't think they're acting. We later get to Natalie and her dislike of Kaylee. I think that's real. Like,
yes.
I mean, we don't have to dive deep into it, but Natalie has come out as pansexual and she's currently in a lesbian relationship. Kaylee outed her as lesbian on social media, and Natalie had not yet told her family. And first of all, that is super uncool, and Kaylee should apologize. Like, that's something you don't mess with. And also, but like, to me, that's real. And like, Natalie's handling of it so far in the house, to me, is real. That she's not even like speaking to her. Like, that she's not playing it up.
Yeah.
For any benefit. She's just pissed and keeping her distance. As for Johnny Bananas and Natalie, I agree with you that last season it was a showmance. Like, they were doing it for screen time. Mm-hmm. I don't know right now how much it is for screen time or not.
Okay.
I will say, if it is real, like if that conversation that we saw was real, Johnny Bananas is a dick. Like, unless I'm missing something, I don't understand why he would be mad at Natalie.
Yeah.
Right? Like, it's clear that what happened was...
how he tried to spin it, though, was that they weren't really in something that serious, and so when she found out about the Kaylee thing, she, like, went overboard in making him look really bad. The flaw in that is that he played a pretty big role in making it seem like they were in a showmance, too.
Yeah. And, I mean, that we went over this last season, but the Nelson-Kaylee relationship played out, I guess, much more normally, where Kaylee was like, hey, he and I made out before you and I were even speaking to each other romantically.
Yeah.
I'm sorry you had to find out this way. And I think Nelson overreacted by being like, oh, we're done here. But Kaylee was just like addressed it. Whereas Johnny never spoke to Natalie about it and just like let the rumor spread like wildfire.
Yeah.
And I think that's what Natalie is most pissed about. That, like, friend to friend, he didn't just like pull her aside and like handle his business.
Yeah. And it's super interesting, too, because I think Natalie's super dope, right? Like, Natalie, the one thing that seemed kind of weird was the conversation she had afterwards with Kyle, was it?
Yeah.
They're by the pool, and she's kind of saying that she always will have a soft spot for Bananas, right? Like, before she got into the whole stuff with Kaylee and Kaylee's Instagram, that was the part where I was kind of like, okay, so... does she even, like, give a fuck about Bananas? And if so, why? Right? Like, it just seemed weird to me. But the other thing to get to as well is we got this whole drawn-out thing with Chuck and Brittany, right? And It's, like, back to what we were talking about with the Redemption House. They need to make us care about the Redemption House. So there's this clearly fake set-up scene where Chuck and Brittany are at the dinner table.
Yeah.
And they're, like... having this big confrontation about the fact how they were dating and they broke up because Chuck walked out on her and Brittany still is mad about it. But the weirdest part was that the other two people, the other two groups in the Redemption House are sitting and watching this all go down, which was super awkward, but mind you, super funny at the same time. But like, do you even care about Chuck and Brittany, or were they just trying to make us care about Chuck and Brittany? So did it work? Did it make you care about these two?
I'm intrigued because it sounds like it's going to blow up.
Okay.
Like, it sounds like this is going to be the big relationship blow up on this season. I was also intrigued by what he said about the relationship and that it was super toxic and that he just had to get out for his own sanity. And then Mama Day said that she's batshit crazy.
Yep.
And
Mama Day was saying that bitch is an actress.
what we've seen, and keep in mind, listener, I have not ever watched Are You the One? But what I've seen of Brittany is she seems like fun and bubbly and like very much a free spirit. Like she was always naked last season. And like has intense feelings for Brad. But she seems like normal and like the Sheldon standard of I would have no problem hanging out with her, like grabbing a beer.
See, Brittany is on that borderline for me of what you're describing, but very easily too. Brittany seems like the girl that your mom's warns you about. If that makes sense.
Yeah.
Right? Like she seems like there's trouble there. Like the best part of this whole thing is watching Jemmy sip her wine or whatever she's sipping while her and Jenna are watching. And then the cut to Mama Day just giving straight side eye while this conversation's going on. And that's my feeling watching it, because you're watching just thinking, yo, man, Brittany just looks like those eyes when she's like staring at you like that. Like, yo, she seems like she's trouble. Right? And it's like, just get away. Like, don't let her lock eyes with you, or else you'll be mesmerized and you're locked in, and then you're in her web and you're in trouble. And it looks like Chuck, going back to the reference we made last week about the Chris Rock bit, right? Like, hey, as men, sometimes you might stop chasing, but if it's chasing you, you might not be able to run away that fast. And Brittany did acknowledge to Jemmy and Jenna after they confronted her that she does still kind of care about Chuck.
Oh, she definitely does. And so I want to be clear. We were talking about whether or not this relationship drama is real or constructed, like if it's for the show or not. I think that scene was constructed where they were sitting down at the dining room table. But I think the feelings, the like sexual tension, but the anger, I think that's very real between Brittany and Chuck.
Brittany, like the look in Brittany's eyes just screams sexual tension.
Sexual tension?
Is that just me?
No. I mean, Jemmy and Jenna for sure believe that. But also, I think she is super pissed with him, and I can't say that I blame her.
It strikes me, though, as one of those ego things, right? Like, like, she probably knew that the relationship was bad, but it was more that he left her before she could type of thing. Like, she strikes me as being a person that would be upset ego-wise, a bruised ego that she wasn't the one to end it.
Yeah.
But anyways, a lot's going on there in the drama of the house. And then, speaking of fake made-up, sorry, did you have anything more on the relationships?
No, but I wanted to talk about Angela and the tradition of throwing pillows at whoever reads out the first clue.
So, here's the thing. The montage of them showing it was really good.
Yeah.
The execution of them throwing the pillows didn't seem that good at all.
No.
And yet, Angela, I mean, how should I phrase this? Angela coming from Bad Girls Club, right, where basically the whole script of that show is just getting into fights, then going to Are You the One, where it's basically a toned down version of that, and now being on the challenge, you could almost see the wheels turning in her head where she was kind of like, I'm going to play this up and get really mad.
Yeah.
More mad than I should be for people throwing a pillow at me.
I think that was for sure part of it. I also think that, like, in the montage, it was always like a cascade. Like, everyone threw the pillows all at once.
Yes, exactly.
Whereas this time, it was really only like the veterans like CT and Shane and Brad and Johnny Bananas and maybe Veronica that were doing it, and Zach did it, and
I love Zach's reaction too. He's
oh
like,
yeah,
really? She got that mad? All I have to do is throw a pillar at her to throw off her game.
but
Zach's such an ass, but he's correct.
Oh,
right?
he's spot on. The thing though is that the way they were doing it, and I'm sure it was on purpose, was instead of a huge cascade, they were doing it every time she got her train of thought back. Which is like more annoying, but also like Angela, you just gotta power through.
Yeah.
Right? Like as soon as you power through, you're fine. And like in the montage they show Mark Long, shout out to Mark Long, getting like hit with all these pillows, and he just like turns around and like shook his ass at everyone. Like that's how you handle it. Eventually they run out of pillows and life goes on.
Yeah, I mean, she played it up, and then, of course, Johnny Bananas has to go play it up, and it's funny because he's the one that goes and apologizes after getting everyone to throw the pillows at her in the first place. It was just super ridiculous, super funny, but, you know, I'm going to skip ahead because I'm going to save the part that I don't know if you were going to bring up, but you might want to bring up, but I'm going to save it for our best quote.
Oh.
If that makes sense.
Yes,
so
it does.
let's move along a little. What else happened here? The next scene we got is they're about to start the challenge, and we find out the drama ends of who Johnny Bananas' partner is going to be. And it is Tony time.
Also, as predicted. Well, I mean, yes. I knew. But still, I'm going to take that I was correct.
See, you misplayed your hand, John. You should have just been like, I don't know, but I'm going to guess. Odds makers, I'm going to say Tony's a favorite. That's how you should have played this, John.
Sheldon, we both know that I'm not that long-term a thinker.
That's too funny. So yeah, we find out that it's Tony time. And, I mean, the whole Tony time thing was weird because everyone turned around and they were pointing to their watch.
Yeah.
Everyone was doing the Isaiah Thomas, pointing to the watch, you know. Everyone seems to be on board with Tony time. Like, is this a thing that's sticking?
I guess so.
Are you here for Tony time?
I liked the phrase. It's just a little overused.
Who was? Oh, it was Joss. Joss was like, he's like, what is Tony time? I don't even think Tony knows what Tony time is. I don't even think he can tell time. I thought that was pretty good. Well played by Joss.
Very well. I like Joss. To me, let's talk about catchphrases, because as much as I like Devin, he also is, not that we've seen him yet this season, but he overuses "let's go" now. And like a key catchphrase, you only want to use it sparingly so it has more power. Mm-hmm. And I think that like Tony, it's hard because he's not in control of the edits. But, like, he's got to use it so that's only, like, once per episode. And, like, you got to deliver it with different emphasis at different points, you know? Like, just, like, sometimes quietly be like, hey, man, it's Tony time. But then also be like, it's Tony time, you know? Like, you need some variety to make it work better.
Interesting point. Okay. How do you think Tony time will work melding with, is that even a word? Teaming up with Bananas. Like, how does Bananas fit into Tony time? Is this a partnership that you think will work?
I think it all falls on Bananas on if it works or not. Although I noticed Tony refused to shake Bananas' hand when they were teaming up like that.
See, I think that's played up. Like, I think they're playing up the whole beef just for the sake of, you know, the vendetta. You know what I mean? Like, they're playing up that angle. Like, I really don't like them, but I feel like Bananas especially. But I feel like Tony for sure. He knows that it's a stronger. Like, this is a great move for him, especially if you show up and you look at the other teams. You know that automatically you and Bananas probably have the strongest team in the house. If not top 2, top 3. but there's not many teams that you're going to look off the bat and be like, nope, that team's better. And so I think if you're Tony, you know that it doesn't benefit you in any way, shape, or form to actually like really be salty with Bananas still, because you got to get to the money, right?
Well,
he's got kids to feed, right?
Many kids.
He's got babies at home. Isn't that his normal line?
Yeah. I've got two thoughts. First of all, much earlier in the episode, Shane said something that you and I have been saying for a long time. And that is, in any season of the challenge now, Johnny Bananas is in trouble.
Yep.
His traditional allies are falling away by the wayside. Partly because he's burned bridges, partly because they're getting so old that they're not on the show. He also has the problem that basically everyone who's on the show now grew up watching Johnny Bananas on the show.
Exactly.
Johnny's other problem, and this is in general, is that he's a hypocrite and he often plays the victim. And we saw it just with his conversation with Natalie, right? We saw it in his former friendship with Sarah, where he's the one that said, all's fair in love, we're in the challenge. She screwed him, didn't even screw him out of the money, but like voted him in, and it ended their friendship. She tried to fix their friendship, and then he stabbed her in the back. And then he gets mad at Tony for making a game play against him. Like it's the same issue.
Exactly.
Right? Like this Johnny and Tony would be a great team if Johnny would be like, listen, I was pissed in the moment, but I understand it was a gameplay decision.
Which I think Johnny, a challenge veteran, he does feel that way. He just knows it's better TV to play it up.
Yeah, I guess so.
That's what I think. I don't know. It's my assumption. And maybe I'm giving Bananas a little too much credit. But in terms of this actual challenge now, I think that was kind of cool in terms of how it worked. And it fit into those two guys because they're used to competing in challenges. So they're used to the hanging aspect, not really afraid of heights, right? Like it was a cool challenge for them. But essentially, I didn't write down what it was called, but essentially you're being hung up by a rope and you needed to swing into the middle. Your partner pushes you into the middle and you had to grab as many rings as possible, right? Yeah. Pretty simple, seemed easy.
It was basically a more complicated American Gladiators competition. They had one like this. They had to jump and grab balls. Yep,
exactly. So yeah, this team, this is where I started breaking down and started breaking down all the different teams and looking at, is this really fair? Because, unless they have a vast array of different challenges, when I see something like this, and I'm not going to say that it favors men more than it favors the women, but I will say I feel like your two partners need to be on board with each other. And if you're not on board with each other, right, like Zach might be pushing Amanda a little too hard because Amanda is way lighter and Zach is super strong. And so like their distribution of power or balance might be so off that it's awkward for them.
Yeah.
Does that make sense? Whereas like Kyle and Brad, lights out. Tony and Bananas, lights out. Right? Meanwhile, same thing. Tori and Derek, they had no idea what they were doing. Well, I should say Derek, I guess, had no idea what he was doing. Do you think that has to do with the imbalance of the all-guys team and the all-girls team, or the teams being mixed? Like, or am I reading too much into it?
I think that height and weight definitely were benefits in this challenge. But I also think you're totally right that...
Like, CT and Veronica also struggled hard, too.
Yeah. But I also think that getting along, like teamwork makes a difference. And
teamwork makes the dream work, right?
It does. Teamwork does make the dream work.
What's that from? I don't even know what that's from.
It's from my life, Sheldon. I also think that you're spot on that you and your partner for this challenge had to be comparable. Like Brad and Kyle Kyle's taller and thinner, but I bet they're about the same weight. And certainly they can, like, push each other without too much difficulty.
Yeah.
But on the other side, Angela and Faith are much smaller, but they did very well. But it's because they're
They
the
were
same.
amazing.
Yeah, they were amazing. But it's because they're the same size, and I think they actually get along well enough that they can work together. Or
Yeah.
at least when it comes down to business time, they're willing to, like, talk with each other and make it happen that way. Like, be
With
professional.
the other
I
thing,
guess.
yeah, the other thing about them too was that Faith has the confessional where she says, you know, most people are probably going to look at us and be surprised because they're thinking, oh, we're just two pretty girls. We're not really here for the challenges because we're from X on the beach or whatever. But oh no, I was an army vet. And I was like, hold on, wait, what? Like, I didn't know that at all. Right. And she was basically, it was like that confessional was basically talking to me. Right. Because I was like, oh, yeah, like you guys did surprise me. Like, they really put in work in this challenge, and it was really eye-opening for me because I was like, oh, okay, this is a legit squad. Like, these guys are here to compete. They're ready to go. They're not just going to be the pushover in terms of how when they brought in, let's say, Kaylee and Melissa. Melissa is a good competitor, right? Like, she's a pretty solid competitor. Kaylee isn't really so much, right? But I thought they'd be more in that vein. But for your first competition, Angela and Faith did really, really well. They surprised me.
I'm impressed. To me, Faith and Angela are totally blank. Like, I don't know.
Clean slate.
Clean slate, thank you. That's the phrase I was looking for. But, I mean, Faith was in the army, and she says, like, the hardest thing I had to do was throw a grenade. And, like,
Yeah.
a real live grenade. But
Exactly, yeah.
I think she's underselling it. Like, basic training is no joke. Like, if you can get through basic training, you're going to do fine on the challenge. And she's going to have more mental toughness than I originally gave her credit for.
Oh, for sure. And physically, too, like, they weren't scared. They were like the anti-Derek.
Yeah.
Derek, I think he's afraid of heights. Like, was that it? Like, I was trying to figure out, like, what was going on, and it really made no sense to me. But I thought he must be afraid of heights. But then Tori said that she wanted to be the one to swing, and Derek was like, no, let me do it. And so if you're afraid of heights, why would you be the one that wants to swing? That doesn't make sense. So I was really, really confused by his performance. What'd you make of it?
He definitely panicked. I don't know what his panic was, but he was definitely freaking out. Like, he wasn't listening to what she was saying. He was just freaking out. So I don't know. I mean, as we're talking, it occurred to me that maybe he threw the competition just because he dislikes her so much.
Oh, I never even thought of that, actually.
It hadn't occurred to me until we were talking about it, but
interesting. Who didn't throw the challenge, as mentioned, that was Kyle and Brad. They definitely did not throw the challenge. They end up being the winners of this challenge and now hold all the power. What do you make of Derek and Derek? Why am I saying Derek? Sorry, Derek definitely did not win. Of Kyle and Brad winning this challenge and having the power. And you're right about, you said it earlier, John. They drop all these nuggets, right? They plant these seeds. And so planting this whole Cara Maria and playing up the Cara Maria, Paulie, and Kyle triangle now to then having Kyle win the first challenge, is that playing right into your point of dropping the seeds? This is why it was so important, because now we're wondering, is Kyle going to hold a vendetta, pardon the pun, against either Kara's team or against I keep wanting to call him Cody because that's his better brother, but against Paulie?
I'm honestly not sure.
Like, who knows what Kyle's mindset is, right? Kyle seems to be an interesting dude, to say the least. So who knows what his mindset is, right?
And Brad has really strong opinions too. And Brad's no fool. He plays too emotional sometimes, but he's also he's a pretty logical guy when he like keeps his emotions in check. That said, Brad and Marie have not always loved each other in the past.
Good point. Pizzagate.
Kyle, Cara Maria, also. Oh, sorry, Kyle and Cara Maria also obviously have their checkered past. So, like, and we had that scene, which I quite liked. We didn't touch on this, where Brad goes to Cara Maria and is like, "Hey, what do you really think of my partner? Because, like, you and I have always been cool, and I just want to know, like, should I be concerned? Like, I just want to know where you sit." And I thought that was a very real, genuine moment. Like, the way they were speaking to each other seemed real. And I really liked that move by... I really liked that move by Brad. Because...
No, I agree with you.
Because I thought it was just smart. Like, and there's no harm. Cara Maria is not going to get mad and be like, "Oh, you came around and checked on my feelings? Oh, you dick." But I think in general, you know, last week you picked Zach and Amanda as your like number one bet to win, and I picked Sylvia and Joss as my pick. But you know, Brad and Kyle, pretty legit, especially because
solid squad.
They're doing what Johnny Bananas seemingly was unwilling to do, which is buried the hatchet. Like, they
don't even seem like they have beef at all.
No, they seem to be getting along a lot. So that's super dangerous. I mean, it's super dangerous for the rest of the house. It's not so bad for them.
Exactly. Meanwhile, my pick of Zach and Amanda had a horrible time, but luckily for them,
I think they're safe.
They played the rules of Ricky Bobby, right? If you're not first, you're last. So everyone else who didn't win the challenge, you're basically all available to lose and end up being in the elimination round, which seemed to please Amanda, but Zach maybe a little bit more, as he had a very interesting quote, right? He said that he feels like he got his STD test back and it came back clean. Like, that's a bit much, right? Like,
yeah.
Is there something we're missing here? A story we don't know? Is Jenna okay, Zach? Like, you're making me worry about Jenna's safety here. What's going on?
I'm curious, what was your quote of the week?
Woo! My quote of the week... My quote of the week actually goes to Angela and Faith, like that whole scene. Right? And Faith says that people are going to... So Faith is trying to calm down Angela after all the people whipped the pillow at her. And she obviously is familiar with Angela's work of popping off, let's say. And so Faith's explanation, she says, quote, "People going to get in your face all the time, and you're not going to like what everyone has to say to you. You think Hillary didn't want to punch Donald Trump in the face?" And I'm like, did she just compare being in the challenge house to the U.S. presidential race?
Yes, she did.
Was that a thing that happened? Yeah.
Yes, she did.
I actually stopped and rewound it because I think maybe I might have been typing out notes while that scene was on, and I heard it and I was like, wait a second. Is that a thing that just happened?
Well,
so, yeah.
For me, I think my quote of the week was... there's a lot of good ones. I had some runners up, but my number one pick for best quote was when TJ was explaining the competition and Tony leans forward to Johnny Bananas and goes, "You're going to have to carry this one, man. Fresh off the plane, super hungover."
Tony time.
Tony time. And I have to ask, who killed it for you this week?
For me, it's pretty easy, and I'm going to give it to Brad. The reason being, obviously, they won the challenge. They had a super great showing. But Zach, what's wrong with me right now? I think I'm, like, getting tired. The Kawhi Leonard thing is having its effects on me. But, sorry, Brad, the reason why I'm giving it to Brad is, obviously, they won the challenge, but also, Brad is doing a great job politically. You mentioned it just now about his conversation with Cara Maria, a smart political move, right? see where he's at on the radar, see how much this whole Kyle thing might affect a strong player in Cara Maria, but also a player who might have some sway in the house, right?
Yeah.
So very smart move by Brad. And most importantly, he's laying low.
Yes.
And that's probably because Brittany's not there. But so far, you've seen him play the political game. He was there to go comfort Angela, make sure she was okay. And he apologized on behalf of the rest of the house that threw pillows at her. Brad just, he's making moves right now. He's making very smart moves. And hey, credit to you, Brad. Add that to a victory in the challenge. And yeah, Brad is my MVP.
I agree completely. I think it's a good pick, but especially because laying low has not always been Brad's specialty. But so far, so good. For me, I'm picking Faith.
Okay.
Because she and Kyle are having their fun.
Yep.
That's a good alliance to have, Brad and Kyle.
Yep.
She's staying out of the Cara Maria, Pauly, Kyle love triangle so far. Mm-hmm. She and Angela really put in an impressive showing in the competition.
Yes, she also did hit a great Millie Rock.
Yes.
When they announced that she did a really good job, and TJ announced great job, said they did a good job in the challenge, she hit a pretty solid Millie Rock, so I'll give her credit for that too.
So I think it was just a really good week for her. And I'm so impressed with her military service. So Faith for me was the MVP.
Dope. I'm in. I'm with you. The one thing I want to say too, looking forward to next week though, John, is they haven't fully explained how the elimination round will work.
No, I'm
that
curious.
That whole standing over the light bulb thing, where it looks like it lights up, the platforms that you're standing on lights up, and anyone could go in.
Yeah.
I'm in on this. Maybe this is where what I'm asking for in terms of the gameplay will really start to kick in, and we'll get more of that mix, because the wave right now of how the challenges intersect with the house drama, we're riding the wave right now of the house drama, and we know that's what's coming up next. It's got to be some good old-fashioned just challenge goodness. And I'm here for it.
I'm here for it too. Where could the people get you on social media?
You can find me on social media right now, buried in my mentions, in my feelings, on the Kawhi Leonard, DeMar DeRozan trade. But you can find me on Twitter at Shell Alexander, on Instagram at Sheldon Alexander, and shout out to our YouTube listeners.
Yes, definitely. And you can get me on Twitter and on Instagram at jchidleyhill. And I think if you do choose to follow either me or Sheldon, you're going to see a lot about the Toronto Raptors, at least for the next day or two.
Yes.
And about the big DeMar DeRozan trade, because people in Toronto are in mourning right now. I'm about to head to work, and I'm expecting to see people wearing black armbands, because people love DeMar.
Oh, man. Yeah, it is a crazy times in Toronto. But I go the other way. I'm not mourning the loss of DeMar. I'm welcoming Kawhi. What a time to be alive in Toronto. I'm hyped. Let's go.
Oh, we can turn this into the On Blast basketball podcast in a heartbeat. Because you and I, we might not see eye to eye on this issue, but we can save that for another day.
We definitely will. I'm gonna hold you to that, John. I'm gonna hold you to that.
Until next week, this was You Killed It.
You killed